The only thing I've actually impressed myself with during pandemic is the amount I've been able to get done while moving as little as possible. The beautiful thing is that can also translate to guitar. So I'm going to show a little bit of what I learned about peak efficiency, playing everything we actually need to use in an entire key, actually multiple keys, without actually moving my hand beyond this spot right here. Okay? So this lesson was inspired by just kind of like a revelation I made teaching one of my Patreon lessons of a music video that we taught earlier, and just kind of how I didn't even notice, but every time I see a 1 chord go to a 6 chord, we'll talk about that in a second, I always kind of do the same move. And I never set off to do that, but it's something that just kind of like coalesced into my playing over just playing like a bunch of live shows and like maybe probably like doing like 3-hour sets and stuff like that, where it's like, all right, my brain may be fried, but my hands are at least making this more efficient for everybody involved. All right. So I'm rocking the Cort A6 today, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite guitars. So Chords sponsored this video. So check that out in the link below if you're interested. Really great guitar. But what we're going to do is we're going to do this in the key of D, okay? And we're going to do every single chord that you'll find in the key of D, but we're going to do it in a way where you barely ever have to move your hand and go through every different chord voicing, just to kind of make some really cool sounding chords maybe you haven't used before. And also to do that in a way that makes it efficient and actually makes it a lot easier, okay? So before we get to the good stuff, the efficient stuff, let's do it inefficiently first, just kind of like the old ways. Tipping our cap to the old ways to let the new ways come through, all right? So the main chords in the key of D are D major, being the 1 chord. All this stuff comes from the D major scale. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and then D again, right? Every one of those notes can become a chord, right? So the first one, D, is D major. The second one is E. E becomes minor. The third chord, F sharp, becomes F sharp minor. That can be a tricky one for a lot of people. The 4 chord is G. G major. The 5 chord is A. A major. The 6 chord is B. B minor. And then the 7 chord we can see is C sharp half diminished, or we can just skip it all together like a lot of people do. And then we go back to D. Okay, so if you look, we have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, B. Now you'll see that even just in those open kind of cowboy chord positions, we're moving around a lot. And it might not even be the most efficient way. So what we're going to do is we're going to move, everything is going to happen right here between the 5th and 7th fret, all right? So I'm going to start, instead of playing D major chord, D major 7, all right? We've already improved this key immensely by making the 1 chord a major 7 chord, all right? So this chord voicing is going to start with the D on the A string, the 5th fret, all right? Then we're going to go ring finger, 7D, middle finger, 6G, pinky, 7B. Optionally, you can get the high E string 5 if you want to make it a bar chord, but you only really need those middle 4 to make that cool major 7 sound, okay? If you wanted to just make a regular D major triad, you could just do it with this A shape where it's just the 7th fret, D, G, and B. But again, I like this, okay? Now again, the song that we were playing to demonstrate this was actually a song called Cigarette Daydreams by Cage the Elephant. And again, that was where I did this move right here. So we're actually going to skip, we're not going to do this in order. We're going to go from the 1 chord to the 6th chord, the relative minor in the key of D. You'll always see, not always, but most of the time you'll see B minor in a song that's in the key of D, all right? The nice thing about this move right here is we can pivot off your ring finger, okay? So again, this is going to be like D major to B minor, which for a lot of players, that's kind of tricky, you know what I mean? But the nice thing about this move is actually it shares a common note right here. Your ring finger is just going to post up right here on the 7th fret of the D string, okay? So from here, we're going to pivot, keep your ring finger down, middle finger is going to go to the B on the low E string, the 7th fret. Your pinky's going to tuck right behind your ring finger, and your pointer finger is going to grab the 5th fret on the B string. This is making a B minor 11 chord, okay? You could also do B minor 7 if you want, but I think the sound of a minor 11 chord is something that sounds really cool. Especially back and forth between a D major 7, the 1 chord to the 6 chord, as a replacement for the 1 chord to the 6 chord. See that right there? I have to kind of change the angle of my wrist. When right here, I think that's a much more efficient way to do it, okay? But again, those are just 2 chords. Usually these songs are more than 2 chords. So let's go through the rest of that chord scale, as it were, in this position, okay? So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna play the 2 chord in the key of D. Remember what that was? It was the E minor. So let's play an E minor type chord voicing without having to extend the fret reach that we have right here. I think it's a cool way to kind of keep one spot steady. So your pinky is just gonna plant right there where it is on the B string, 7th fret, and then we're gonna play this chord right here. Okay, so another E minor type chord, goes E minor 9. We've got, now the E on the A string is the 7th fret. The minor third is coming from the 5th fret on the D string. The ring finger is grabbing the 7th fret on the G string, making it like a minor 7. And then getting the money shot, where your pinky was the whole time, getting that awesome minor 9 chord, okay? So, 7, 5, 7, 7. So the 1 chord to the 2 chord to the 6 chord to the 1 chord. Okay, so it has a much different vibe. Some might say it's a jazzier vibe. I just think it sounds kind of cool having like a different type of an E minor chord voicing in there, right? So we've got the 1 chord to the 2 chord. Now the 3 chord, that F sharp minor chord. Oh boy, that's tricky, right? Remember up here, we had this one. That bar chord that's always really hard to pull off. But what I want to talk about is how this relates to the D major 7 chord, the 1 chord that we started with. In fact, if you take that same chord voicing, and we just take the D out of there, and then maybe just move it to the bottom string to get that A, it's like a minor chord voicing right here, because any major 7 chord is really a major chord plus a minor chord. All right, so if you don't know what that means, definitely check out the Patreon, because I talk about all that stuff kind of from the ground up. But right here where I have the same chord voicing, but I just don't have a D in there. And then now we have this A note right here, this C sharp, and there's our F sharp right there, and another A. Okay, so you really only need these 3, and that's a minor chord. So there's our 3 chord, F sharp minor. That's always a lot easier to play than... Again, they had... It's a different chord voicing, so it sounds a little bit different, but that's our 3 chords. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my gosh. Probably my favorite one in this entire key. The 4 chord is a major 7 chord is what I live for on guitar. So remember, D, E, F sharp, G. G is the 4 chord. In this key, you can turn this also into a major 7 chord. The way we're going to do that in this spot is right here. So 5. There's our root note on the D string, which is a G. There's an octave G. And then really, couldn't be simpler. 7th fret all the way down. G, B, and E. Love that, right? So, the reason I think this is my favorite major 7 chord voicing is I think it's really pretty because it has a 1, a 5, a 7, and that major third, the B, is on top. And I think it just is one of the most beautiful ones you could do, right? So we can add that from D, E minor, F sharp minor, G major 7, okay? So after the 4 chord is the 5 chord. This is going to be A. Remember, D, E, F sharp, G, A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A's chord in the key of D is A major. So this is going to be A's spot. It's really easy. You probably already know this. This is like just a regular A major bar chord. An easy way to do it is just take the middle 4. Right? So where I have my ring finger, 7A, my pinky, 7D, my middle finger, 6G, my pointer finger, 5B. Maybe you already knew that one. We can also get the open E strings because E is a note in an A major chord. Also, a cool thing to do is take your pinky off of that bar chord, make it A7, and then my favorite move on this one, put it on the B string, 7th fret. Okay, so all these cool different like A dominant chord voicings that we can use to add to what we have going on there. After that, we go back to the 6th chord, which we talked about, that B minor 11, okay? So now let's run through all of them. We've got the 1 chord is a major 7. The 2 chord as a major or a minor 9. The 3 chord as just a regular triad. 4 chord, major 7. 5 chord, 6 chord, back to 1. What about that 7, you ask? Skipping it. If you really want to, you can just take that regular C sharp half diminished. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, and then end it on a regular open triad, because that's a good place to end it. And then the old the D major octave jump, which I'm definitely known for whenever I'm playing live, because I like to extend with the Sean Daniel arpeggio into something high and dramatic, right? So all that happened within the spacing of 3 frets, 5, 6, 7, okay? That's why it's really important to know all these different chord voicings. And the great thing about being able to move this stuff around, you can play it in absolutely any key. Let's do it in the key of E. You don't even have to actually know the names of the chords. You can get the forms down. So this was in the key of D, right? D sharp or E flat. Here's E, the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, to the 6 chord, back to 1. So again, it's really kind of just jumping around. Now, if you do them in order like that, it is going to sound more like an exercise. There's a million different things that you could do with that. But starting to get these forms down, even if you just take like a couple of these connections, like 1 chord to the 6 chord, right? That's something you can move as a progression. 1, 6, down a step. And now we kind of have this back and forth. And I'm just taking a move now, and I'm not even thinking about keys. I'm just kind of making that common reference, and then also back and forth like that. Like that cadence would be 1 to 4 to 1. That's one of my favorite ones all time, right? So again, thank you, Cort, for sponsoring this video. Definitely check out the Gold A6. Really love this guitar. It's got a built-in tuner. I haven't even talked about that yet. It's always good to be in tune. That helps. And if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.